Today I'm making something really fun for the Christmas holidays, and these are my gingerbread cookies. So let's get on with the ingredients. 2 eggs, 3 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, a half a cup of unsalted butter at room temperature, a half a cup of fancy molasses, 3/4 of a cup of packed brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of ground ginger, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, and half a teaspoon of salt. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. Alright, so our first step, we're going to get all of our butter into our bowl. And one thing that I did want to mention about the butter, this is unsalted butter, so I'm adding salt. If you are using salted butter, just omit the salt that I showed you in the beginning, at the beginning of the video, okay? So we've got our butter there. I'm going to put in the brown sugar, and we also have our molasses. And a little trick here, what I'm going to do to get all of this molasses out is I'm just going to heat the rest of this, just what's left in my measuring cup here. I'm just going to zap it in the microwave just for about 5 seconds, just to get it a little bit more fluid so that it all comes out. So I'll just do that quickly. There we go. You can see how much easier it is. Well, I could see how much easier it was to come out. Another little trick too is that you can just take a little bit of cooking spray and spray the inside of your measuring cup. That will help it come out a little bit easier as well. You know, any kind of cooking spray, Pam, or whatever you have. So there we go. You also could have just heated up all of the molasses, you know, before you poured it in, just a little bit to warm it up so that it's more fluid. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on my beater attachment, and I'm going to simply get this going. I want to get this really creamed up. I want to get this creamed up really well, so here we go. So I'll just let this go for about a minute, and I'll come back when it's all creamed. Alright, that's been going for about a minute or so. That's pretty good. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our first egg in. So we'll just pop that in there. There we go. And our second egg. And you might be wondering why I break my eggs into a tiny bowl before adding them to the main bowl. And the simple reason is it's a lot easier to remove a little piece of shell from this tiny bowl rather than digging through all of that to find a shell. So I always do that just to be safe. So I'm just going to let this go for about a minute. I want it really well incorporated, and I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so that's been about a minute. Everything's well incorporated at this point. Now, what you could do is you could take all of your dry ingredients and sift them into a bowl. Or what you can do is you can just directly do it right into the bowl, which I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to remove my paddle for a second. I'm going to pop a sieve on there. And I'm going to get all my flour in. Give it a shake. And just take your time. And there we go. I'm going to put in all of our spices as well. Just dump everything in. Just have fun. There we go. Beautiful. And we'll just give it a little shake. And just push it all through the sieve. And there we go. We'll get our paddle going again. I'm just going to put this on the first speed, the slowest speed on my mixer, and I'm just going to let this incorporate. You can see that this dough is rather thick. I'm just going to increase my speed. Oh, and this smells really, really, really good. Okay, and that's good enough. So that's it for the actual mixing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring the dough out. I'm going to split it into 2 dough balls. I'm going to wrap it in plastic wrap. I'm going to make 2 discs, and we're going to pop it in the fridge just to chill it down. So I'm just going to clean up. I'll be back in a second. There we go. Alright, so here's our beautiful gingerbread dough. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to split it into a couple of discs. So I'll whip through this. I want to get my discs done. And I'll be back in a second. And what you want to do is when you get it in your plastic wrap, you want to really, don't make a ball, you want to make a disc, because it's just much easier to roll out later on. And the other thing too is it chills much more evenly when it's flat. And just flatten it out into a disc. And this dough freezes really, really well. So you can make this, you know, a week in advance, a few days in advance, whatever you want. You could have it probably 2 weeks in advance. As long as it's well wrapped and air isn't getting at it, it'll be totally fine. You can just bring it out, let it thaw out. Do not put it in the microwave to thaw it. And then you can roll it out. And it'll be as good as the day you made it. So there we go. So I've got my 2 discs. I'm going to pop these in the fridge for about an hour or so. You can put them in if you're in a rush, half an hour, an hour, and then we'll come back in a bit and we'll start working and making our cookies. Gingerbread cookies, yum. Alright, my gingerbread has been resting for a good hour and it's ready to go. You can see that even after a good hour in the fridge, it's still quite pliable. Okay? So it's not hard as a rock, so it's still easy to work with. I'm getting a little bit of flour down on my workbench, a little flour on the top. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is just start rolling. So we're going to be making some nice little cookies and gonna have some fun. So I'm just gonna continue slowly rolling this out. I'll just show you a trick. So this is a little trick. I've never seen anybody else do this, but I've been doing this for a long time. You ever find that it's sticking underneath? It's not sticking today, but I just wanted to show you anyway. You can use an offset spatula and you can just get right underneath and you can actually pull some of your flour underneath just like that, and it's a nice way of getting under there, because with a flat knife, if you've got a knife, it's very, very hard to get underneath there, but an offset spatula works very well. So there we go. So I'll just continue rolling this out. I don't want it too thick and I don't want it too thin, so I'm just going to do this until I get a nice, maybe about a 1/4 inch or so. Now the thinner that you roll this out, the faster they're going to bake in the oven. So that's something that you have to think about. And they'll also be a little bit more crunchy if they're, thicker. So we'll just go around like that. And if you find that there's not enough, you can just get a little under there, just a little bit. You don't want to put too much flour. So there we go. just like that. Another way, if you don't want to actually put flour right directly on top, you can take it and sprinkle it on your rolling pin like this, and then just go like that, and then take your rolling pin and do that. So you can see some people doing that. So there we go, that's nice. I'll just take my spatula again and just go around. There we go, nice. I also want you to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I always forget to say that at the beginning of the video, and so I'll hopefully remember to put a little banner up letting you know that you should get your oven, going at 350. Alright, so for today what I'm going to use is I'm just going to use a simple little cookie cutter here, and I'm also going to use the traditional gingerbread man form. So I'm just going to cut a few of these out. There we go. I'm going to get myself a baking tray and I'll be back in a second. Alright, so what I've got here is just a tray. And there's no need to grease it. I'm just going to get my spatula underneath the little guy. There we go. And we'll just pop them right onto the tray. Just be very careful. You want to keep your shape nice. And there we go. What's really great about this dough is that you can just roll it back up into a ball, and you can just let it rest for a little bit and it rolls out beautifully again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start cutting a few of these. I guess what I'll do is I'm going to move everything around here so you can see a little better. It's no fun when you can't see. So I'll just move stuff around. Beautiful. So we're going to bake these 350 degrees for about 15 minutes to 18 minutes, something around there. Depends on your oven. There we go. I'm going to do some more little gingerbread men. There we go. Alright, I just zoomed out a little bit and changed my camera angle. That's much better, just like that. There we go. So the hardest thing to do with this recipe is actually making the recipe. Cutting out the cookies is pretty fun, and kids just love to do this. There we go. I think we need a few more gingerbread men. So I'm not going to do all of this recipe, but I just wanted to show you how to make gingerbread, how easy it is. I'm going to bake these at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 to 18 minutes. I don't want them too brown, I'll just keep an eye on them, and I'll come back with the finished product, and I'll be back in a bit. Alright, so here are my gingerbread cookies. They bake for a total of 15 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I like my cookies on the crunchy side, so I did them for 15 minutes. If you like them a little bit more moist, then what you want to do is do them for about 10 to 12 minutes. So these are my gingerbread cookies. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. And there we go. Gingerbread man. Fun. Santa Claus. There we go. Beautiful. Great. And a little snowflake. Perfect. All right. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.